Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi on this Saturday night as we're going to update you now on all the latest developments with regards to Hurricane Ophelia, which continues to be a major Category 3 hurricane, top winds 115 miles an hour. As of the last advisory from the National Hurricane Center, this was as of 5 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, which is 9 p.m. Western Europe time. We're looking at, or Greenwich Mean Time, 35.9 north, 23.7 west, and that's about 235 miles southeast of the Azores, and it's racing to the northeast now at 28 miles an hour, top winds 115. The Azores are going to see gradual improvement in weather conditions as it moves away from there, although they never really got deep into this tropical system. But everything remains on course with regards to what the weather models were doing this afternoon. So we're going to take a look at that, and I will be right here with all of you. We're also going to look at the upper air pattern across North America and whether that's going to change or not. There have been some hints in the last several model runs that may be the case. On the other hand, there have also been a few model runs that have said, well, yeah, but not so much. So we'll get the weather video going here. I want us to get this done, and we'll come back. And if you have any questions or comments, we'll chat away about it. So I want to give a great big welcome to those of you who are watching from England, Scotland, Ireland, and all of the UK as we look at Hurricane Ophelia. The eye, very well defined here. Top winds 115 miles an hour, major hurricane. It is moving pretty quickly, excuse me, to the northeast at 28 miles an hour. So it's moving at a very good, very fast clip here. It is now past south and west of the Azores by a fair distance, and the next stop for this is going to be Ireland. We are going to go through some of the afternoon weather models to see what kind of changes we've seen. The only thing that we've noticed is that the models maybe are just a shade slower, but they still have Ophelia gradually becoming an extratropical storm. At the point that it gets near Ireland, it will be what is known as a post-tropical cyclone. It will have strong winds with it and some heavy rains. The heavy rains will be north and west of the low track. There will not be that much rain to the east of the low track. The strongest winds will be on the east side. You can see how the change in the wind field here. This is the colors you see. The greens are all gales, and the reds are sustained winds of 50 knots or higher. This is one particular model. This HWRF model is one of the Hurricane Center's models that they look at. Now notice the difference in the structure here from this afternoon on the model, where we have this very tight ball of wind with the strongest winds right near the circulation center. And then as we start to move into Sunday afternoon and Sunday night into Monday, this is Monday noontime when it's forecast to move ashore on the southwest corner of Ireland. The wind field has expanded considerably. It really does begin to look more like a winter-type cyclone as it moves on up northward from there. This is by midnight Wednesday. It is moving on the remnant low to Norway. But let me just backtrack a little bit again. This is Ireland at noon, moves over the western part of the island. The gales spread to the eastern shores and extended the western shores of England and Scotland by 6 p.m. Monday. We are seeing it move back out over the water, touching northernmost Scotland. The center of it is, and it is weakening in the process, and then moving on out to the northeast. So that is one model's view. We're going to look also at the GFS's model view of this, and we'll give you the perspective of all of Europe. at this point. Now, this is from this afternoon. There's Ophelia coming onto the scene here, almost to 20 west at this point, running up northward Sunday afternoon. Some of the gales are just offshore Spain and Portugal, and the GFS model takes it just about at the same spot. This is at noon on Monday, just about coming on shore to southwestern Ireland. The purple is 50 knots or greater, so you can see all along the southern shores of the island, 50 knot plus winds. The gales then spread around both sides of the island as the storm center moves north-northeastward, hugging just inland of the west coast of Ireland, it seems, and then on up to Scotland by 6 a.m. Tuesday. And by noontime Tuesday, it's back out over the open waters and heading toward Norway and Sweden, and all you'll have at that point is a remnant low. So I think you're going to see some pretty rough action here, with weather conditions beginning to deteriorate probably during the early morning hours on Monday, and then peaking in intensity around midday into the afternoon, and then for Ireland anyway, and then gradually improving as we move into Monday night and Tuesday, although it'll still be rather windy Monday night. In England, you'll start to see the rains on the western shores of England and Scotland sometime around. You'll start to see weather conditions deteriorate probably a little after daybreak Monday. By noon, you'll start to get into the stronger winds. The strongest action for you will be probably from, say, 2 p.m. to midnight, and then, again, up into northern Scotland. This is 6 a.m. The low center at this point is in northern Scotland. It will have weakened somewhat as it moves to the northeast. One of the things that we're going to be very curious about, by the way, is how the models handle the depth of this once it makes that extratropical transition. That music you hear, by the way, is my oven. Here is the European model, which unfortunately we only get to see in 24-hour increments, but this is noon on Sunday and then noon on Monday, just off the southwest coast of Ireland. So the European is just a shade slower and then takes it just offshore Scotland. So it takes a track perhaps a little bit further to the west than the other models do, but it all has the same idea. And this orange you see here back through Italy, this big finger, this is a big ridge of high pressure aloft that's building. This is one of the key reasons why we have Ophelia doing what it's doing. I'm going to give you a North Atlantic view so you can look at what the upper air shows here. So we want to focus on the eastern part of the Atlantic, of course, but you notice there's the blue area here. These are several upper air strong troughs of low pressure in the upper atmosphere, one in particular that lines up just to the west of Ophelia, and it basically lifts it up and around like an arm. It just goes up and around, and that is something that will cause Ophelia perhaps to maintain its strength as it begins to get juice from the upper atmosphere the way wintertime systems intensify, as it makes that transition over into a non-tropical but very strong and very powerful winter cyclone. I want to show you the rain with this, with the GFS. Again, north and west of the track of the system is where you're going to see your heaviest rain. So here's Ireland and Scotland and England, and that rain area. Again, the real heavy rain is on the west side of that low. So there will be some heavy rains, I think, in northern Ireland and into northern parts of Scotland, maybe not so much in the southwestern corner. When we look at this in terms of the total rainfall amounts that the model is generating from now right until Tuesday noontime, the blue areas, excuse me, in the rainfall amounts in millimeters, we're talking the blue areas are all generally 15 millimeters or more, and you get into the white, the purplish areas, and you're talking 45 to 50 millimeters. And you see most of that rain is out offshore, although some of that does get into Scotland in northwestern Scotland with this. But to the south and west, I'm sorry, to the south and east of the low track, and when you look at the rainfall area, the heavy rain, this pretty much outlines the track of Ophelia, right like that. So here's where your heavy rain is, and not so much on the other side of it. So just very, that's just pretty much how they work. And when we have this down as a tropical system, you're going to see that rain area is much more concentrated around and maybe a bit more symmetrical, but not the case when they become these non-tropical systems. They get that they start to behave like a wintertime system. Here's another look. This is the simulated infrared satellite. That yellow spot you see here is Ophelia, and you notice that kind of disappears, and notice that it takes the shape of a comma as it moves northward. Again, this is more of a signature of a winter type cyclone as opposed to a as opposed to a tropical system. So just very interesting how this is all playing out. It's so rare to see something like this. That you know, from the standpoint of the meteorology end of it, we're really kind of marveling at all of this. I want to just really quickly touch upon the overall pattern in North America, because we are seeing some hints at change. Now, whether that change follows through or not remains to be seen. We've been dealing with this ridge, this upper high. I just backed it up to today. So you have this upper high in the east, and you have this trough in the west, but there's an arm of that trough that's swinging eastward, crashes that ridge. So we start to get at least one shot of cooler air. But then notice as we move into next weekend, what comes back? The upper ridge again. You have a deep trough that runs from Alaska all the way down the west coast, and a big upper high is going to try to build here in the east. So at least for one more time, we're going to see that ridge flex a bit. And then the question is, as the energy in the west starts to come in and the ridge gets flattened out, is it going to be something that's going to produce a trough eventually in the east and kill this ridge once and for all, or bring a ridge to the bring a ridge out to the west? When we look at the earlier GFS, it certainly looked that way going into the end of the month with a series of troughs. But then right at the end of the period, we're back to a very deep trough in the west, all back through here, and then that ridge again popping up in the east. But as I always say with respect to the long range, it does get squirrely when you get beyond the day 7 and certainly beyond day 10. And by squirrely, I mean that the solutions are going to swing wildly from run to run. So I'm going to stop this weather portion of the video on the live stream right now, and we are going to switch over, and I will get involved in the chat and take any of your questions and comments. Really do enjoy getting. Got to turn my mic back on. Okay, so going through tonight and tomorrow, particularly tomorrow night, I think one of the things we're going to look at very closely is when Ophelia makes this transition over into an extratropical storm, which should begin on Sunday. How long does it take to make the full transition? And is it going to respond to that very deep Atlantic trough that lifts it up and around? If you notice, that trough almost goes from being north-south to west-east. We say that it goes negative. That when the troughs do that, they tend to energize the systems that are the surface systems that are involved with them. And I think it's certainly possible that we could see Ophelia hold on to some of its strength. I don't think it's going to hold on to the level that it's at now, but it certainly is going to be in a position, I believe, that some parts of Ireland are going to experience hurricane-force gusts with this. The heaviest rains are going to be probably in northern and northwestern Ireland and into northern and northwestern Scotland. If you're in southeastern Ireland, if you are in much of central and southern England, you're not going to get too much rain out of this. You might get a little bit of wind, and it might get breezy on the western shores. It may get windy for a while with gales, but I think the strongest winds are destined for Southwestern Ireland, and where that low comes ashore is going to be very, very critical. The other thing that I did address tonight, of course, was with respect to the long-range weather pattern. I showed you the GFS. The new GFS wasn't out far enough. I have it out far enough now. It has gone back to the idea after a brief appearance of ridging in the east next weekend, and then we get a trough that swings on through, then just a little bit of ridging, and a deeper trough that swings out of the west and across the Great Lakes, and then eventually swings around into the northeast. It does look like the pattern wants to change from what we've been seeing with these strong ridges in the east. Now, this particular one for this weekend is only lasting for a short time. The one for next weekend also looks to only last for a short time. So the time span that these ridges are around seems to be shrinking. The question is whether we can get that trough in the west to swing out of the west and move into the eastern part of the United States, and at the very least change the pattern enough that we get some rain around here, because it's been so horribly bone dry. So, this is usually, we're at the time of year now in the month of October where the upper atmosphere is beginning to take its wintertime shape. So we're going to be watching it very, very closely to see what evolves out of all of this. Weather end low 78. I know you keep asking about hurricanes and so on. I think the season's winding down with respect to another major for near the United States. I don't see it being indicated by the models at this point. So I think your odds now are beginning to shrink fairly quickly. Liam McGrath from Southwest Ireland, Tralee, I hope I pronounced it right. The local schools have now officially closed for Monday because of red warning. Yes, I did learn tonight from Joker's Tantrum, I believe. Yes, who has told me what yellow warnings meant. Now, red warnings, I guess, is a full-blown storm warning in effect. And yeah, that makes total sense. Text messages said parents saying and confirming this. Okay, inevitable as the Earth angles further, the change will come out of the blue. Okay, David, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. You must have a prior. You must be responding to someone else's prior post here. Christopher, you think by the end of next weekend we could see a deep dip in the jet for the east, or too far out? We're going to go back to a ridge position next weekend. The next trough will follow after that. Okay, that's at least the way it looks right now. But I do think things are starting to change somewhat. Now, whether those changes happen, and if they do happen, do they hold? That's the other big question. We could have a temporary change that lasts for a week or 10 days, and then it flips right back to the ridge in the east position. Don't be surprised. You've seen it happen before. The UK never gets hurricanes. I think that is starting to change. Well, Joker's Tantrum, it's not exactly true. If you go back and look, if you go through Wikipedia, and you'll find there's actually quite a few that have impacted the Britons over the years. Hurricane Debbie in 1961 is the one that kind of stands out for that particular area. That was quite a storm. And there was, we mentioned on one of the earlier videos that there's still there was a lot of meteorological debate in the back offices about whether that storm wound up being more tropical than non-tropical. But it does happen. It's infrequent. It is rare, I think, to see them come up like this from the south. That doesn't happen too often. Usually they come in from the west. Let's see. It's the pits. I'm in New Jersey, still warm and humid. Oh, Sean, I know. It's the same here. I finally got late in the day. We had some brightening here on Long Island. We actually had a fair amount of rain here this morning into this afternoon. Some ocean moisture came in overnight and kind of swept inland and soaked us a little bit. Kevin Francis, your cousin moved to Scotland just in time for the hurricane. Go figure. But yeah, that's interesting timing there. But those folks are pretty hardy up there. I mean, they handle some big North Atlantic storms that come their way. I mean, this should be manageable for that part, I'm Southwestern Ireland again going to get the harder hit from this because they're going to get it while it's still fairly intense as a post-tropical cyclone, as opposed to by the time it gets to northern Scotland, having moved inland. If it moves inland over Ireland, it's going to weaken some as it moves northeastward. So that is going to impact the strength. Let's see. Chris O'Shaughnessy touched on. Okay, hold on. I got to go back, Chris. I got to find your original question. Hang on, Chris. All right, I'm missing. I can't seem to find it. So if you give me your question again, I'll be glad to answer it. Unless I already answered it. David Schwartz, this is the sixth. Ophelia is the sixth major hurricane of the season, and the record is 7. 1961 with Hurricane Debbie being one of those years, and there was one other year. Anthony Orr earlier mentioned the other year, and I don't remember which one it was, but 7 is the number. So we had Harvey, Irma, Harvey, Irma, Jose, Lee, 4, Maria, and Ophelia. So that's 6. I can't believe I had to really think back on the. I almost forgot Jose. Let's see. Any early guesses of the winter pattern? Okay. I did talk about the long range, Chris. It looks like there is going to be at least a temporary pattern change. Not this coming week, but the week after that. Looks like we may go to a trough. The ridge wants to break down, and that there'll be more troughing in the east. So some cold, a colder flow, and maybe a more active flow from the standpoint of getting some rain events in here. Maybe even some of the first early snows in some of the colder areas, well north and west of the coast. Now, again, whether that's a permanent, if that's going to be something that's long lasting or not, I don't know. Cullen, do I ski? No, I don't ski. I have this theory that I don't pay money to fall down. Okay, I fish. Anita Leahy from she's in Kerry. I have to tell you, by the way, I don't know if Kerry butter originates from Kerry, but as an Italian and someone who likes to cook, that is the best butter on earth. Okay, and I actually had the Kerry company actually sent me a wheel of blue cheese that was like nothing I've ever had. It was just amazing. It was just absolutely amazing. So I am a huge fan, Anita, I cook everything in Kerry butter. A big oops. Okay. I'm not sure what that means. I hope I did. I wasn't trying to be flippant or anything. I just want to let you know. Muse Atlantis, the 1987 Great Storm. I'm not sure which storm you're referring to on that. Last week, my wife and I were in the Finger Lakes in Watkins Glen, Chris O'Shaughnessy. And if anyone wants to do a nice getaway, I highly recommend. Okay, great. I love it up there, by the way. It's beautiful country. I love upstate New York. Your little backyard squirrel, Ellen Abraham, getting all of the squirrels before the deep snow cover comes. Pretty wise. Let's see. Just want to see if I make sure I got everybody's questions. And, of course, I want to also make sure, if there's anyone here watching from Ireland or in the UK, I want to, address whatever issue, questions you may have. And I think I got them all. It appears that I got them all, but if I did leave someone out, I apologize. Okay. I think we're good. All right. So we, of course, tomorrow will update you in the morning on whatever overnight events happen with respect to Ophelia and how Ophelia evolves as we watch it become a post-tropical cyclone and head toward Ireland. for Monday. I hope you folks are, staying, getting prepared, especially if you're in Southwestern Ireland. It's going to get, it's going to be rough for a bit. And in the meantime, we're in for a true battering, Kerry style. Oh, okay, I got you, gotcha. But still, I love Kerry butter. I remember the weather bomb we had in the UK was bad. All right, Joker's tantrum. I'm not sure which weather event you're talking about here. All right, so look, I'm going to leave it right here, folks. Have a great evening. Watch for future updates on Ophelia and the long range across the United States. We'll hit you tomorrow morning, Eastern time, U.S. Eastern time. So figure if you're watching from the U.K. or from Ireland, maybe around 1 p.m. your 1300 hours your time, 1400 hours your time. I'll put up the first update tomorrow, and we'll see where it goes. Be safe, and we will see you on Sunday.